Today I stuccoed over an old stone foundation. I'm going to show you how I did it. Well, today I'm plastering an old foundation, an old stone foundation. And all this stuff, this stone, is nothing more than mine rock that came from the mines. And they blocked the window in here. And they blocked the window in here. And my job today is to make this better. They use this old lime mortar, which falls apart. I keep preaching that all the time. So we're going to do this side, then I'm going to come over here and do this side, same stuff. See that old mortar falls apart? They all tell you use lime mortar, it's garbage. So we're going to go around here where they added a block porch and there's no damage, and then we're just going to come over here and do this side. Now you see up on top where the water doesn't hit, they already patched it up once. All this stuff falls apart. Down in the bottom where the water splashes against it, it destroys these old stone foundations, but that's the only problem. But this is nothing more than mine rock. Let me talk to you about that. Now that rock came from the old mines when they were ripping it out. And where I live in northeastern Pennsylvania, there's tons and tons and mountains of this stuff. And that's what they used to build those old cellars from. So you can see I got tons and tons. I could pick a ton in 10 minutes of this rock. It's all usable for those old farms and those old houses. Now, if I was doing an old barn and I wanted it to look good, fine. But this is all junk rock. And that's what they used to build those old houses from. The old miner houses. So look at they took out of the mines all kind of stones like this and like that. And look at this. Here's a piece of mine rock with coal. This is the coal. And the other part is the mine rock, or what they make the column banks out of. So that's the column banks, and that's the coal right there. Now I'm digging away from the foundation so I can get my plaster under there. Just like that. So the first thing we're going to do, get the hose and wash all the loose stuff off. You see that? Get all that stuff out of there. Get down to the original lime mortar, which is falling apart. You don't like to hear that, but it's true. I'm the guy that goes around fixing this stuff. So we're going to get it all cleaned off first. Here's my mix. I'm using Portland, see it? And I'm using Masonry cement, usually type S. So I'm putting half of the Portland in and half of the Masonry and 2 buckets of sand. And then I add the water and I mix it up about where I want it. Now for bonding agent, I'm just getting straight Portland. It's upside down Portland. Put it in an empty bucket, just like that. Add some water, just like that. And I'm gonna make this into a paint. That's gonna be my bonding agent. Make this into a paint. Just like a little better than a milkshake, maybe. See that? I'm making it into a paint. That's my bonding agent. Right after I wet it, I get my Portland. And I paint the whole thing with the Portland. That's what's going to make it stick. So now we're getting the cement. We're throwing it in. See that? Throwing it in makes it stick. See that? You throw it in. Right against that wet Portland. And it's going to stick. I've been doing this for 50 years, so I might know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Throw it in there. Let's say you only get a little bit, you don't want it to fall off, you go like that and it sticks, see? Get these big holes. That's where you got to get into them holes. You got to throw it in there like that, see? No big deal. going to get the witch's broom and just scratch it, because we're going to come over tomorrow and do it again. What we wanted to do is shrink all up, so when we put our second coat on, it'll be the end of it. Now when you get to a spot like this where they filled in an old window, get your wire brush, make sure you get that off of there. You know what I mean? That ain't going to help being on there like that. Get that stuff off of there. Then I don't have any electricity, so I just get the axe, I dive into that like that, leave something for that cement to stick to. See that? That's how you do. So I got it all chipped up, then paint it with the Portland. See that? Beautiful. That's going to make that stick like glue. Now we don't have to throw it in. We just plaster it on like that. See that? That's going to be our base coat. Right over the wetness. The witch's broom, it was my girlfriend's mother's. She gave it to me. She got a new one. So this is the witch's broom. The reason I'm not using a hock is I can't throw it in with a hock. Masonry work and a plaster man is like two different trades. Usually you see the plaster man working outside on a building, on a house with wire and stuff like that. Basically a different trade. But for these old school mason, I do it this way. As long as it works. Now I started about an hour ago, just finishing this here. Went over the top of the windows right here, and I put it in real rough. And already you could see the expansion cracks forming. And that's what I wanted to do. Let it all shrink up, and then I'm going to come over it when I come back with a second coat. And if it's shrunk up enough, I'll do it tomorrow, and I'll explain more about that. So the first thing I'm going to do, wet it down good. Get rid of all the stuff. Then we're going to paint it with our Portland. Just like that. And we'll do this a little bit too. The blocks soak up the water. See the blocks soaking up the water? They're cinder blocks. But we'll paint them too. Now, same thing, we're just gonna get it a little stiffer, throw it in. Now we're throwing it in, filling all the holes up. See that? That's all we're doing, throwing it in there, getting all the big holes. We're gonna give it the combat finish anyway, so it don't matter. Just trying to straighten out a little bit. We're going to be scratching it as we go. Right here, this is an old cinder block. They fit a porch. Now, this is the third time I'm wetting this down. When it comes to these old cinder blocks, you don't have to use Portland on them because they're rough and they stick. As long as that's real wet, that'll stick. Let me show you an old cinder block. See, old 3-hole cinder blocks. When I was a kid, must have carried 10,000 of these. See how rough it is in here? That's going to stick. So I don't have to worry about the Portland. I just got to make sure it's real wet. And when it's real wet, like that, then I go over it. See that? See how that sticks like that? You don't have to worry about it when you're doing these old cinder blocks, but it's got to be wet. You get it in there, you got to do it fast. Scratch it with the witch's broom. Just like that. See that? No big deal. Doing the same thing right here. Wet it down real good. Just like that. Get everything off of there. Get this in there. Well, we're back, and it's like 5 days later because it was raining out and it froze the one night. I don't like to do anything that's going to freeze at night, but it's all ready to go. So now the big deal is you got to wet it and wet it good. So we're wetting it. Before I even mix the cement, I'm going to wet it. And right before I go over it, I'm going to wet it again. As you put your second coat on, it has to be wet. I'm going to start from here and go right through. First thing I do if I get anything big and heavy, I get it off of there. Then I'm going to wet it again. I've already wet it once. And I'm just going to go right over it. Right over that wetness. Just like that. And on this side, right over the wetness. That right over the wetness. Get all those nooks and crannies filled in like that. And get everything covered. Get everything covered, get the brush, brush it, just like that. It gives like uniformity to things. See that? And that's going to hide those sins. Then we're going to get our plaster and just give it a rough finish. See that? It hides everything. That's what we want. We want it to hide everything because we got stone, we got block, we got brick, we got everything. Just a rough finish. That's all we want. Hiding all those sins. See that? Called the Swedish look or the combat finish, whatever you want to call it. then, this is why we're doing this, because this is all rough here. See it? I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to hide all that. Now if you can see with the second coat, you can see with my second coat, all I want to do is fill in all these little holes and cracks. I don't want to put a big layer on it. There's no reason for it. I just want to hide everything just like that. See that? No big deal. Just get down to the nitty-gritty. Cover it up. That's all I want to do. Just cover that all up. See that? As long as it's in there and it's covered up, I'm good. Now I just get the brush and I just brush it. That's it. Keep it thin. You don't need a big heavy coat. Just want to cover all the sins. That's it. And then we're just gonna go over it, that's all. It's gonna hide all that in and out and all that other stuff. You don't have to do it perfect. Just do it to get the foundation looking better. That's it. Okay, I kind of finished that. Gave it the combat finish or the rough look. And then we're going to do the other side. Now, we looked at this where the stone was. See where it's all shrunk up? That's what I wanted to do. Here's where the cinder block was. See, that side was the same thing as we're going to do to this side. So, we got the whole base down on the cinder blocks, and we're back over here and we got the first coat. You can see where it shrunk up. That's what I wanted to do, let it shrink up, and then when you plaster over it, that's all shrunk up. You put a light coat over it and then you don't have any problems. So I'm going to start from up there because I'm right-handed. I'm up here and I wet it once already and I'm wetting it again because that's what's going to make it stick. So I got this side all done now. That hides all that roughness and windows and everything. It's just not a great finish, but it hides everything. I'm doing the cinder block part now. They wet it real good. Same thing. Make sure it's real wet. It's easier going over with the trowel. Get it all in. Same thing. You don't have to put a thick coat on it. People think you got to make a coat thick. No, you don't. Now we're back at the doorway, if you remember. That side over there is all done. And now we're going to do this side. Same thing. I've been wetting it down for a while on and off. Now I'm going to plaster over that. Now I'm plastering right over where that stone was. This is where the blocks were. You see how I'm blending that all in? I'm going over those cracks. I'm hiding everything. By the time I'm done, you're not going to see nothing. It's the whole idea. You're like a magician. You want to disguise everything. Getting it in there, kind of flatten it out and putting a very thin coat on. You don't need a heavy coat with this stuff. Keep it thin. Then we brush it. See Yeah, it's hiding all that stuff already. See that? It's hiding all that. I'm going to blend that right in. You don't see nothing. It's the whole idea. Nobody knows what's behind that, whether it's stone or brick or block. It all gets hid. It's not the best finish in the world, but for something like this, that's what you do. You don't have to worry about going perfect, because what will happen is if anything ever broke or you had a cut in here, you can patch it up again and then just paint the whole thing with Portland and mortar, just like on my other videos. It's not a big deal. We got some shadows here, but you can see all this blends in now. It all matches in. You can't see where the stonework is. That's all done. Then you go around here. We finished all that. So let's look at the whole project. We did that. We came around here. Here's where we put the bricks in. Then we stuccoed it right there. Went around here. There in the doorway was where the two stone things were. We hid them pretty good. We came around here. We get up here. We went around the side and all the way up the side. Everything matches, and that's it. So I'll talk about that job a little bit. It's an old apartment building. It had that old slang or column bank stone, I call it. Just wanted to patch it up, make it look a lot better. Even the lady next door said her house prices went up since I fixed that building. I use the same mix, traditional cement, Portland and mortar. You don't buy it with the sand in it. Sometimes people make mistakes. You buy it without the sand, you mix the sand into it. You fill it in, you fill the big holes in, and then it kind of shrinks up because it's rich. Anytime you're filling it in, you wet it, you mix that Portland, paint it with the Portland, and immediately go right over the wetness in the Portland. Sticks like glue. It's a Swedish look, or the Swedish pattern you could call it. My uncle used to call it combat finish, because you do what you got to do and then you keep moving forward. So that's it. I have another video called Foundation Repair Part 15. That's the sister to this video when I was fixing up the cinder blocks, patching them up, and then doing the stucco over. So watch that. This whole job that I did cost less than $200 for all the materials. I used 6 bags of Portland, 6 bags of mortar, and $50 worth of sand. So thanks for watching. I hope these videos help. I'm Mike Haduck. Until next video.